Listening is more powerful than speaking and building trust. When someone truly listens to you, really listens without interrupting, judging, or trying to fix you, you feel it instantly. There's a kind of calm that enters the space between two people when one is simply present and attentive. You feel seen, you feel safe, and more than anything, you feel that you matter. That is the foundation of trust. You can give the most eloquent speech, offer the best advice, or recite all the right words, but none of that compares to the impact of being a good listener. Trust isn't built by how well you speak. It's built by how deeply you listen. Speaking tells people what you know. Listening tells people that they are known. In moments of conflict, people often rush to defend themselves with words. But trust doesn't grow when we defend. It grows when we pause and receive. When you listen without agenda, you show the other person, I care about your experience, not just my opinion. And when people feel cared for, they begin to open up. That's when trust forms. Not when you speak perfectly, but when you show you're willing to understand. Think about the people you trust the most in your life. Chances are they're not the ones who talk the most. They're the ones who listen the best. The ones who remember the little details you shared in passing. The ones who didn't rush you when you were vulnerable. The ones who didn't fill every silence with solutions, but gave you space to breathe. That's trust being built. In silence, in stillness, in attention. Even in leadership, trust doesn't come from a commanding voice. It comes from a listening ear. Employees follow leaders who hear their concerns. Children follow parents who listen with patience. Congregations follow spiritual voices that take time to understand their hearts. Speaking may inspire, but listening creates loyalty. If you want to build trust in your marriage, your friendships, your family, or your calling, practice listening more than you speak. Make room in your conversations for quiet. Let others finish their thoughts. Ask questions that invite, not interrogate. And most importantly, don't listen just to respond. Listen to connect. Listen to learn. Listen to love. Because long after words are forgotten, people remember how you made them feel. And nothing makes someone feel more valued than being truly heard. That is the quiet power of listening, and it's far stronger than words alone. Most people hear to reply, not to understand. We live in a world that rewards quick answers. Fast talkers are praised. Debaters are admired. We interrupt without even realizing it, eager to make our point. But the truth is, most of us are not truly listening. We're just waiting for our turn to talk. We hear with the surface of our minds, not with the depth of our hearts. Have you ever been in a conversation where someone cuts you off before you even finish your sentence? Or worse, they give you advice that completely misses what you were trying to say? That's what happens when people hear only to reply. They pick up on a few words, then immediately start forming their response. In doing so, they miss the meaning, the emotion, and the human behind the words. Understanding requires more than ears. It requires presence. It means slowing down, putting aside your opinions, your rebuttals, even your need to be right. It means asking yourself, what is this person really trying to say? Sometimes the words are only the surface. The real message is underneath, in the tone, the hesitation, the look in their eyes. When we listen only to respond, we're not having a conversation. We're having two monologues, disconnected and competing. But when we listen to understand, we step into the other person's world. We stop trying to win. We start trying to connect. This kind of listening takes humility. It takes patience, and yes, it takes practice. But the reward is deeper relationships, fewer misunderstandings, and more moments where people walk away feeling truly known. If you want to love someone, don't just speak. Seek to understand them. If you want to influence someone, don't start by proving your point. Start by proving that you care. Because when a person feels understood, they stop defending and start trusting. And that opens the door to real change, real healing, and real connection. Understanding is not found in clever words. It's found in quiet attention. And when you choose to listen with the goal of understanding, not winning, fixing, or replying, you begin to offer something the world desperately needs: true presence. True listening can heal more than words can fix. There are wounds in people that no advice can reach, no explanation can touch, and no speech can soothe. But a listening ear, a truly listening heart, can go where even the most beautiful words cannot. Because sometimes people don't need answers. They need to be felt. They need someone to sit with their pain, not solve it. Someone to say nothing, but mean everything, just by staying present. When someone feels heard, something inside them begins to loosen. The tightness in their chest eases. The tears they were holding back finally fall. Not because someone fixed their situation, but because someone stayed. That's what true listening does. It doesn't rush to fix. It doesn't run away from discomfort. It simply says, I'm with you. Doctors can give medicine, but sometimes what the heart needs most is attention. Counselors can offer techniques, but what makes healing possible is being heard without judgment. Even friends can offer encouragement, but it's the quiet nod, the soft silence, the patience to let someone unravel. That's where healing begins. We often think healing is something we do for others, but more often it's something we hold for them, a safe space, a pause in the noise, a moment where they can let go. And that's what listening becomes, an act of grace. Think of the people in your life who helped you most. Maybe they didn't say anything special. Maybe they didn't offer any answers. But they were there. They looked at you with eyes that said, I hear you, you matter. And that was enough. That presence was the medicine. That attention was the balm. So if you want to be someone who heals, don't rush to speak. Don't be so quick to explain or correct. Just listen, truly, deeply, patiently. Because long after people forget what you said, they will remember how you made them feel. And few things feel more healing than being deeply, quietly understood. Relationships are saved or destroyed by how well we listen. It's not the big arguments that always break relationships. Sometimes it's the little moments, missed opportunities to listen, to be present, to hear the quiet cries behind calm words. One person says, I'm fine, and the other doesn't look deeper. One sighs in exhaustion, but no one asks why. Over time, it's not just the words that go unheard, it's the person. In every relationship, whether it's marriage, friendship, family, or even work, listening is the glue that holds the connection together. When you listen, truly listen, you tell the other person, you matter. What you feel is important to me. I'm not just here for your good days. I'm here for your words, your fears, your silence. And that is how trust is built. Intimacy is formed and relationships are strengthened. But when listening is lost, distance grows. Misunderstandings take root. Small issues become big ones, not because they couldn't be solved, but because no one took the time to really hear what was being said. How many marriages have drifted apart not because of betrayal, but because both people stopped listening? How many parents have lost connection with their children because they only spoke rules but never heard their hearts? How many friendships faded because one person always talked and the other always felt invisible? Listening isn't passive. It's active love. It's leaning in when it would be easier to walk away. It's staying present when emotions rise. It's choosing not to defend yourself, but to understand them. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do in a relationship is to stay quiet and just listen. You don't always need the right words. You just need the right posture, one that says, I care enough to listen, even when I don't agree, even when it's hard, even when I'm tired. That kind of listening can rebuild what's been broken. It can soften what's been hardened, and it can save what was on the edge of being lost. Because when someone knows you are truly listening, they stop trying to be loud. They start becoming real. So if there's a relationship in your life that feels strained, start here. Stop talking. Start listening. Not with suspicion, not with impatience, but with your heart open, your ego set aside, and your ears tuned to what really matters. That small act could be the turning point. That moment could be the healing. That could be the saving grace. Listening reveals more than words ever will. People speak with their mouths, but they reveal themselves in their pauses, their tone, their body language, their silences. And when you truly listen, not just to the words, but to what's underneath, you begin to hear what the heart is really saying. A person may say, "I'm fine," but their voice trembles. They may tell you it's no big deal, but they can't look you in the eye. They may smile politely, but their shoulders are heavy. Words can be rehearsed. Words can be used to hide. But when you listen with attention, when you observe, when you lean in, you begin to hear the truth. This is where true wisdom begins, not by talking more, but by observing better. Because the more you listen, the more you see. You begin to notice patterns. You begin to sense when someone is hurting, even when they're laughing. You begin to feel when someone is withdrawing, even when they're saying all the right things. Most people miss what's really happening in their relationships, in their children, in their team, not because the signs weren't there, but because they weren't listening deeply enough. Listening isn't just about what is said, it's about what is meant. And sometimes the most important part of the message is in what was never said at all. This is why the best leaders are great listeners. The best parents are quiet observers. The best friends are not the ones who talk the most, but the ones who listen with their whole selves, because they pick up on things that others overlook. They hear the emotion behind the expression. They hear the need behind the words. To truly know someone, you have to listen with more than your ears. You have to listen with your eyes, your heart, your spirit, and when you do, you will see beyond the surface. You will hear the fear behind the anger, the sadness behind the silence, the longing behind the pride. That's where connection begins, not in clever responses, but in deep, patient, full-hearted listening. Because when someone feels that you see them, hear them, and understand them beyond their words, they begin to trust you with the truth they didn't even know how to speak. Listening builds trust faster than words ever can. Trust isn't built through speeches, promises, or clever advice. It's built through presence. It's built in the quiet, consistent moments where someone feels safe enough to be themselves, unguarded, imperfect, even messy. And nothing creates that safety faster than being deeply listened to. When someone listens without judgment, walls begin to fall. When they don't interrupt, pressure, or push, hearts begin to open. Because trust is not earned by how much you know, but by how much you're willing to hear. People don't remember the exact words you say. They remember how you made them feel, and feeling heard is one of the deepest human needs. Have you ever watched a child try to explain something important to them? If you brush them off, they close up. But if you kneel down, make eye contact, and listen, their face lights up. That's what we all crave, even as adults. Not to be fixed, not to be corrected, but to be valued enough for someone to give us their full attention. The same is true in marriage, in business, in friendship. We trust those who listen, not just those who talk well. We lean toward people who make room for us, who give us space to speak without fear, who don't rush to reply or reduce our experience. We open up to those who hear us first, before they judge, instruct, or dismiss. Listening tells a person, "You matter more than my opinion. Your voice is safe here. I'm not here to control your story. I'm here to honor it." And in a world full of noise, that kind of listening becomes sacred. So if you want to grow trust in your life, at home, in your community, in your work, start by listening longer than you're comfortable. Resist the urge to interrupt. Choose presence over performance, and show people that they're not just being heard, they're being held. That is the soil where trust takes root and grows strong. Listening is the beginning of wisdom. Many people chase knowledge, but few pursue understanding. They fill their minds with facts, quotes, opinions, but never learn to quiet themselves long enough to truly listen. And yet, the wisest among us are not the loudest or the most confident. They are the ones who have trained themselves to listen first, speak second, and judge last. You see, wisdom is not just about what you know, it's about how you respond to what you hear. And if you don't hear deeply, you won't respond wisely. Listening slows you down. It humbles you. It reminds you that you don't know everything and that every person you meet carries a piece of truth you haven't learned yet. In the book of Proverbs, wisdom is often described as something that calls out in the streets, but only those with listening ears will find her. That's because wisdom doesn't shout, it whispers. And if your mind is too loud, if your ego is too quick to speak, you'll miss her voice entirely. A wise person asks more questions than they give answers. They draw others out instead of pressing their own opinions. They seek to understand, not just to be understood. And that starts with listening, not just hearing, but attentive, humble listening. The kind of listening that's not looking for flaws in the other person's logic, but for truth in their experience. Listening is how wisdom grows. Every time you slow down enough to hear someone's story, every time you resist the need to correct and instead seek to understand, you are becoming wiser. You're learning the art of discernment. You're building empathy. You're becoming the kind of person others can trust with their truth. So if you want wisdom, if you want depth, maturity, insight, start not with speaking, but with silence. Start not with opinions, but with observation. Start not with trying to teach others, but with a quiet readiness to learn from anyone. Because wisdom doesn't grow in the noise of our own voice. It grows in the stillness of our listening. Listening is how love is expressed without words. We often think love must be shown in big gestures, flowers, gifts, long speeches, public displays. But love, in its most powerful form, is quiet. It's present. It's attentive. It listens. Because when you listen to someone, truly listen, you're saying, I care about your world. I care about what's going on inside you. Love is not just what you do for someone. It's how deeply you make room for them in your heart. And the greatest room you can make is by giving them your attention, without distraction, without agenda, without rushing them to a conclusion. A parent can say, I love you 1,000 times. But if they don't take time to listen to their child's thoughts, fears, or dreams, the child may never feel it. A partner can write love letters, but if they interrupt or talk over the other in every disagreement, the love begins to feel hollow. A friend can say, I'm here for you, but if they never sit in silence when words aren't enough, the friendship begins to weaken. Listening is love in action. It's patience when someone struggles to explain. It's grace when someone's emotions are messy. It's compassion when someone says things you don't understand, but you choose to stay with them anyway. And here's something powerful. People remember who listened. Long after they forget who clapped, who praised, or even who gave advice, they remember the one who sat with them, who leaned in, who stayed present when it mattered most. Listening says, you are not alone. And for many, that's the most loving message they'll ever hear. Especially in a world that's always in a hurry, always talking, always distracted. So if you want to love your spouse better, listen. If you want to connect with your children, listen. If you want your friendships to deepen, listen. Not just with your ears, but with your heart, with your full attention, with the kind of presence that says, you matter more than anything else right now. Because in the end, love isn't proven by how loud we shout it, but by how quietly we listen. Listening is how peace is made before a word is spoken. Most conflict doesn't start with shouting. It starts with not being heard. Misunderstandings, assumptions, hurt feelings that were never voiced, or worse, were voiced and ignored. When people feel dismissed, they grow distant. When they feel misunderstood, they become defensive. But when someone feels truly heard, tension softens, walls lower, and the need to fight disappears. You don't have to agree with someone to listen to them. Listening isn't the same as approving. It's not surrendering your beliefs. It's simply saying, I value you enough to try to understand. And that act alone can turn arguments into conversations and division into connection. In a marriage, many fights could be avoided if one partner just paused long enough to listen, not just to the complaint, but to the emotion behind it. In families, generations could be healed if the older would listen without control and the younger would listen without offense. In communities, healing could begin if we stopped talking at each other and started listening with each other. Peace isn't just the absence of noise, it's the presence of understanding, and understanding is built through listening. Listening calms the heart, it slows down anger, it creates room for grace, it makes people feel safe again, and where people feel safe, peace becomes possible. So if you want peace in your home, listen more than you argue. If you want peace in your relationships, listen more than you defend. If you want peace in your own soul, listen to others without judgment, and listen to yourself without shame. Because sometimes what we need most is not to win the argument, but to feel heard. And when that happens, peace doesn't need to be forced. It comes naturally, like a river flowing back into its banks. Listening then becomes not just a skill, it becomes a ministry, a quiet, sacred act that brings understanding where there was confusion, connection where there was isolation, and peace where there was pain.